Welcome back to Partnerships Unraveled, the podcast where we unravel the mysteries about partnerships and channel on a weekly basis. My name's Alex Whitford and I'm the VP of Revenue here at Chanext. And this week, I am very excited to welcome our special guest, Toni. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Alex. How are you doing? Happy to
I'm
be
doing
with
very well. Excited to have you on. And maybe for the uninitiated, you could give us a little bit of a background, who you are, where you come from, and why we should be listening to you today.
Sure. So my name is Toni Drk. I live in Sweden and I work for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and I work in the HP Global Channel Organization. And been with the company for plus 20 years and I've always been close to the channel.
Awesome. 20 years, one hell of a time to stay at one company. But I know that career has, meandered and you've gone in lots of different directions. In fact, you've recently started a new role managing TD SYNNEX globally. That's
Yes.
a role very close to my heart. I ran Zoom's distribution strategy across EMEA. So I'm a big fan of distribution and the value that it can play in the channel. How do you see the role of distribution changing over the last few years?
Well, if you look back a little bit, I think that the box mover view that many maybe have about distributors is very outdated. I think that, we see distributors as a part of our joint sales organization and go-to-market. And when you, like we, have one, or if not the largest partner ecosystem of the industry, you need not only the support of the distributors to extend your sales force, but as well to be the catalyst for the ecosystem of partners and vendors out there. And I think that in the current rapid moving market, it's unrealistic to think that one vendor can serve all the needs from a customer. And probably the same goes with the partners. They need support in areas that are maybe not their core or primary competency, or where they maybe have not yet ramped up. And this is where the distributors really can play a crucial role.
Yeah, I mean, the data is extremely clear. I think it's still true that all tech B2B companies that do more than $1 billion revenue per quarter are channel or partner first, right? Either that's a partner support strategy in terms of implementation, think of someone like Salesforce, or in terms of implementation through to sales, through to deployment, through to management, think HPE. And distribution is the critical element in scaling that partner acquisition and management. And so if you really are going for true hyperscale, the only way is to have that intermediary distributor. And I think they play a really critical role in helping scale a channel. So it must be a really exciting position for you to step into.
Yeah, and if I can take an example there, if you take AI as a perfect example, which is very a hot topic right now, and if you take a large system integrator, maybe they have not scaled up their AI competency yet on a local level in every country. And here they can leverage the help of the distributor to find great collaboration and partnership, maybe with niched AI solution providers that can solve the customer needs. And especially around AI, there's so many specific use cases where these niche players really can add value, but I don't have the business relationship with the customer or don't have the approval to work with these large customers. And here, the distri can really be the catalyst for those great partnerships, to be the catalyst between the incumbent partner, the niche partner, and the distributor that has this full scope umbrella of all vendor relations.
Awesome. No, I really like that as an example, and it's very funny. We had Rick, who runs AWS's marketplace in EMEA. He was a great podcast guest, and he was talking about the requirement to build a customer-centric channel, which is almost backwards, right? Because you think, no, we're going to build a partner-centric channel, but no, they build a customer-centric channel. And he was talking about how he feels that there is going to become an ever-increasing requirement for specialization, meaning that you'll have multiple partners working to develop and deploy the best solution for the end customer. And knitting that together is wildly complicated. So I love that you see that distribution can play a very critical role in what is a bleeding edge technology like AI.
Yeah.
Awesome. One of the things that I really struggled with when I was, doing your role at Zoom is there is a requirement for you to have a centralized strategy, right? There is the HPE way. This is how we are going to market. And then you'll go and speak to English people or British people and they say, no, we're unique. And then you'll go and speak to the French and they'll say we're unique. And I'm sure the Brazilians will say they're unique, and every country is unique and they require some level of localization. How do you balance the absolute mandate to have centralization while also recognizing that there are instances where localization is valid, important, and required? How do you blend those two together?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think business is always local. I mean, this is maybe a cliche, but it's true. Business is always local. However, global growth opportunities can be boosted by a great global initiative. And I think this is where it really comes into play. As an example, if you have an emerging technology or a new business model that you really need to expand across the globe, it makes perfect sense to jointly agree together on a global level, invest on a global level, but then execute on a local level. So as an example, you can have then a global plan with local champions executing in every country and executing it in the way that makes sense for that local country. But the overall strategy and the overall objective is set in one place. And I think that this is really a proven example that really works well. When we at HP, we rolled out our Relate model as a business model, that was one of the examples.
Awesome. I think one of the things that I've always liked about the balance between centralization and localization is the learnings that you can take from other markets. And so one of the real challenges with localization is your information is purely local, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got a global strategy, as you're touching on, and then I'm based in the UK, and then someone in the US or someone in Japan goes, hey, we tried this thing and it worked really well, or we tried this thing and it did not work at all. I'm able to adapt my strategy without paying the cost of learning, because I'm learning from other people's global strategy. If it's too decentralized, if there's no synergy between the strategy and the execution between the UK, the US, and Japan, we can't learn from each other. It means that we move slower as a result as well. So I think that blending can also increase agility.
Yeah, and I think that's part of my role now also, is to make sure that these successes and best practices are being shared with between the countries, because that's where a global role really can make a difference. Because there's so many good examples in every country, but if there's nobody who brings them together and have them to meet together and talk to each other, we miss out a great opportunity of competency sharing.
And one of the things when you're in your position, you're managing TD Synnex from a global perspective. They have thousands of partners, and HP has thousands of partners all over the world. And sort of partner categorization becomes ever more important, so that you can start to look at subsets of success, almost that sharing of information. Well, it's very different for a GSI than a local integrator. So we need to categorize partners. Typically, that's done with the medal system, right? Gold, silver, bronze, or some iteration of gold, silver, bronze. What do you think are the best ways, or the best way to categorize partners?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the medallion levels are, of course, still important, as they show the size of the partner in terms of turnaround and certifications. But I also think that we need to look at it from the customer needs and customer perspective. Just like you said before, on the customer-focused partner programs. So if a customer, as an example, needs a managed services partner, we should show them who are the best managed services partner we know, and who has passed our maturity assessments and maybe have a great customer success practice that's been validated by us. So to show the customers from an outside-in perspective what partners are relevant for them and their needs. This is, I think, the evolution that we see in the partner ecosystem right now. And we have in HP now a Vantage program, and I think that the medallion status will still be there, but it's a different view when we move into from a customer perspective view.
Fine.
And,
so
this basically shows the customer which partner is relevant for them and their needs, and not only which partners are relevant for the vendors, if you talk about turnaround and certifications.
So from your perspective, the medal system's a great way, because we understand some high level data, but maybe even quite vendor focused, right? Yeah. It's not actually what the customer cares about. Broadly speaking, a customer is probably not going to care that much if it's a gold, silver, platinum, or whatever, unless there's some certification requirements, right, to support the project. But instead, there has to be another level of categorization, which is much more focused around how they can support a particular deal, particular customers. That's sort of where you're coming from.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Like a specific need, like security, managed services, sustainability, customer success, those kind of customer-focused values. This is where the partner programs need to evolve.
Awesome. Now, It sounds like you've had quite the career at HP. Pivoting slightly, I do a lot of mentorship for sort of young budding salespeople. I tell them that the channel's a really interesting market to head into. I've got fairly strong opinions of why people should be aiming to build careers in the channel. What's kept you here for so long?
Well, I think that the channel part of the industry is so interesting because it's constant changing, and the IT industry that we're working within is also constant changing. So these two together makes it really interesting and makes you never being bored. So I think that it's a constant change which is driving the interest for me to stay in this middle of the pot, so to say. And I think that I've been fortunate to try so many different things within the company, but still being very close to the channel. And at the same time, I've seen the channel evolution over the years, how it's been transforming from traditional resellers to more system integrators to more managed services partners, and also now where we see the public cloud coming into play, also how the evolution of the channel landscape is constantly changing. And I think that's really fascinating, and that's what keeps me driving.
Awesome. I love that, Tony. I often break the channel down into sort of four pillars. You've got your sales, your marketing, your tech, and your ops. And the reason I love working in the channel is because, feasibly, I'm a salesperson. And what do I manage? I manage all four pillars. And I see technical people and they manage all four pillars. And they see marketing people, they manage, because it's no good just being one, because the business of the channel is understanding how all four work. And sort of to layer on top of your point, not only does the technology change or the market change, but you've got variances in all of those different areas across those four pillars. And it just means there's something new to learn almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic ecosystem also. It's easy to say that many partners are competing with each other. Of course they are in a day-to-day basis maybe, but it's a fantastic ecosystem when they meet outside of their day-to-day business, how well they know each other and how much they care about each other. So I think it's a big ecosystem that is really haven't seen in any other industries at the same scale. So I think that it's something that we should really take care of and nurture and grow.
And maybe focusing in on one of those pillars, marketing, we see channel marketers often struggle to get their marketing assets utilized by partners, sometimes SMB partners in particular, right? Because it's more high volume of partners, there's less direct touch. And so with SMB partners, lack of time, resources, and expertise, what do you think of Chanex's approach to solving that problem?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you have an interesting approach and an offering. I think it's addressing some of the challenges you mentioned, both on the vendor side but also on the partner side. And this is where it becomes really interesting because we as vendors, we create tons of assets on our product solutions offerings, and we're sometimes struggling to get this out to all our partners and to all customer segments. And the reason for that is that many of the SMB resellers don't have the manpower, the marketing departments, or the processes for effective marketing. So in one end, we have these great assets. In another end, we don't get these assets to be used in a big portion of the segment, which is the SMB segment. So I think this is where marketing automation really can make a pivotal play and role. So if the assets that we are producing can be automatically shared and deployed through the SMB resellers, through their SMB customers, through social media, not only on corporate pages, but also on individual level, I think this really can make a big difference. And in the end, I think that all partners could be benefiting from it. And we as a vendor and get data-driven analytics, partners gets posting relevant offers to their specific customers, and the customer feels that they're being addressed in a specific way for their needs. So I think the secret sauce there, I think, which I think that you are addressing very well, is the automation part of it, because all the things that I've seen before, it's great assets, great programs, but there is no real automation, and this is where the smaller partners are suffering because they don't have the manpower to go and execute this if it's not automated.
Well, I think your analysis is spot on. Maybe slightly pivoting away from Chanex, but more into the hypothetical. What I've seen from lots of guests who focus on the SMB is they've talked about either the word automation comes up or the word friction comes up. And whether it's in operational friction, i.e. we don't know how to price effectively, we don't know how to discount effectively, we don't know how to structure deals properly, or sales automation, we don't know how to escalate for support, we don't know how to deploy. All of that friction, when we start to talk about thousands of partners, sometimes tens of thousands, that friction is what kills an SMB channel. And so you have to focus in on automation to win the SMB. And if you can get the whole thing end to end to work flawlessly, I think those are the brands that invest in the tooling and the programs. Those are the ones that ultimately are going to win that channel, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think automation is one of the big things in combination with AI, which is going to be the big thing moving forward here, because that's where we really can evolve the channel and our industry to the next level.
And do you see that AI is going to play a role in your channel design? Because I think so there's sort of two schools of thought in terms of how AI is going to affect the channel. One, it's going to affect the product. So channel people will start selling AI tools, but I also think AI is going to be interwoven into the channel, i.e. it's going to be the foundation of what we build on, right? It's how we communicate, how we market, how we process orders, how we have swivel chair processes managed by AI instead of people. How do you see AI playing a critical role into the channel?
I mean, it is already in many aspects. I mean, we are already using AI in many forms and ways. I think that everything from intelligent pricing based on the customer's behaviors and that kind of stuff. We're also seeing that AI plays a very good role in terms of tech refresh, so we can be more specific in when we are addressing our installed base, so we can see what they're using, how they're using our infrastructure, maybe in our solutions, to make better tailored new offerings instead of just going out and propose the next version of the same system. We can maybe do much more tailored solutions. So I think AI and in marketing, AI is also going to play a very important role of addressing the right customers with the right assets much more specifically, which means that they will feel that they're more personally addressed with different offerings also. So I think it's there already, but it's evolving, and of course chatbots, support agents, and all that stuff, it's already been in place for a while. But it's interesting to see where it's going to be in let's say 3 to 5 years from now. So
yeah,
we'll have another chat then and see.
Yeah, exactly. I always feel when I see GPT-2 versus GPT-3 and now GPT-4, I go, well, that's quite an exponential curve of improvement, right? And so I always, when you start to envision what does 5 years ahead look like, you start to think, wow, there is going to be some radical shifts. But I think for people like myself, people like yourself, that's why it's great to be in the channel, because it's going to be such an interesting time. We've talked about what's kept you involved is those changing dynamics. I think those changing dynamics are speeding up, not slowing down.
Yeah, and they're gonna be massive. I mean, AI is gonna be a big one, but also like vendor strategies. When M&As, as an example, I mean, you see the latest when VMware and Broadcom come together. That's a massive change in the channel landscape also. So there is both like technology driven, but also like business driven decisions that can impact the channel moving forward. So I think that's the fun thing being in this part of the industry. You never know what's going to happen around the corner.
Tony, sometimes I think I've got the best job in the world, because I get to speak to people like yourself, get to nerd out about technologies and channel. It's good to see you having a big smile on your face talking about, I think, the way things are going to change, because I think that's what keeps this whole thing interesting.
Yeah.
Now, we are a true channel podcast, and part of being a channel is sometimes filling out lead forms and sending leads over to other people and sharing the love. So we always ask our current guest to invite our next guest. Who did you have in mind?
So I was thinking of a colleague from a long time back in the time, a lady called Anna Maria Lovenberg, who is today working at HashiCorp as partner director and has been having a great career of 15 years with VMware, also in the partner segment. So I think that she could really be a good next guest on your podcast.
Awesome. Anna Maria will be reaching out shortly. And Tony, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.